Welcome back to the next Midweek with a Maker. I'm Jeremiah Bachhaus from Umbrella Forge, and today is actually going to be a little shorter stream because we're so close to being finished with the axe build. So, since last week, I soaked the handle in boiled linseed oil and let it cure out in the sun, so it's nice and finished. I also spent some time and polished up the edge. I had talked about trying to draw that back just a little bit more. So here we are. We've got our axe or hatchet, if you want to. Again, it's the same amount of work that is going to finish us up here. So today, all that's really left to do is fully seat this axe head. The edge is not sharp end, but if you're not careful, or if I'm not careful, it's sharp enough that it could actually cut me. It became an opportunity for me to check how the weld went. I see one little slight lamination in there, or delamination. I'm not really worried about it. On the other side, it's totally solid. So this piece is really a awesome axe. I love the fact that it's got the fire finish on the outside of everything. So we talked about orientation of the handle. We talked about stochastic artistry and all that. Again, that book is Shop Class as Soulcraft by Matthew B. Crawford. So I highly recommend you check it out. Spend the next year of your life reading it, trying to parse through some of the deep philosophical stuff he talks about, because it's worth it. So for seating an axe handle, we've done all the work, making sure the drift went through nice and straight. So we're really simple assembly here. We're going to start with the very first trick of using that dead blow hammer to drive that axe head in as far as we can. Loose-ish grip with this hand so that I can snap it down on top. There's a little bit of wood that's showing up right at the end. That's great. That means it's driving down extra deep. I also look through from the top to see if any light is shining through around the eye. I also have an arbor press set up here that I will use, that I try and size so that I can drive. And of course, my natural setup isn't going to work. So I can drive the force with this down and really, really seat. I want to drive it just a little bit deeper, so I thought I had everything set up and I didn't. This is, of course, you like to watch the live stream just so you can see how I can screw up. So thanks. I appreciate that. I always get a little, at this stage, I get a little Machiavellian, the ends justify the means. So fortunately, after almost 30 years of collecting, I've got a bunch of junk laying around that I can use. I just have to make sure that the handle comes up through the top of that arbor press. Now, at the very bottom here, I've got a steel pass-through so that this little area can go through. But I don't want to damage the finish that I have here. So I have some scrap pieces of wood that I lay on here to hold it, so I can hold it in place. Bring this down. And then this last little bit really seats that nice and tight. So even if I wanted to, it would take me a little bit of effort to knock this guy off. So I know it's a little bit lower than what I had originally shown you guys when I knocked it on. So the bottom of that curve cut, it's still going to end up about halfway, maybe a little on the higher end. So then the final thing we're going to do is put this wedge in. Now, what I have taken to doing, just because I think it's helps secure everything, is I take a little bit of exterior wood glue and put it on both sides of my wedge. And I can be a little bit generous with that. Again, ordering my wedges from ordering my handles from House Handle Company out of Missouri. I also ordered a bunch of extra wedges just because I thought that would be a wise thing to do, and it turns out I was right. Because sometimes the wedges come and they're not exactly the way that I want them to be. So getting extra wedges gives me some opportunities to go through and say, this is the size that I want, or there's a discoloration. I think most of these are elm, which I've spoken to you guys previously about the benefits of elm. Now, not really worried about the glue that dips down on there. I can clean that up later. I can actually use this arbor press. Once I have that wedge started, I can use the arbor press to actually finish off seating this wedge properly. So open this up, set down on there, and then that gets nice, even pressure all the way down. And then once I feel a little bit of distortion happen in the wood, then I'm aware that it's about as far as it can go. What I'm really looking for is at the very end or very top. I want to see that start to spread out over wide. Now, it's not quite as wide as I would like. I thought it would seat just a little bit deeper. But I'm not too worried about that because I double wedge. So I use the wood wedge in the middle, and then I'm going to cut this off and put a steel wedge in. So that was a little unexpected hiccup we have right there. But that's what happens when you do live streaming. It's not always going to work out the best. Actually, as I look at it a little bit closer, I spent some time to bevel out around there, and I'm not seeing space. I'm just seeing the bevel. Some of those glue drippings happen to get in there, but they're not really a problem. So I'm in really good shape right here. So the very last thing I'm going to do is cut this off and then put, sorry, it's a little chilly, so my nose is dripping there. Cut this off and then put in my steel wedge. So I'm going to move over. All right, you guys are going to go for a little ride. Let's see if I can set this up. I'm using a different camera setup, so. Ooh. There we go. So you can see right here, I have my my bandsaw set up. That's what we're gonna use to cut this off. And what I really don't want glue on my bandsaw. So I'll just clean that up real quick. On the bandsaw table, I'm going to end up with some glue on the bandsaw blade just from cutting this. As we talked about previously, don't put the edge toward yourself when doing this. Actually, you have to. I said don't do it, but you have to because there's not enough clearance here. So very lightly, if you have, well, I have some extra steel pieces on here, so I make sure I wipe that off. I've got a foot pedal here, which is really nice, so I can make short work of this. Going to be a little loud. Give me a second. just like that, we've got a really nice, smooth off right there. It's got some kerf marks on there from the axe or the bandsaw blade, but we'll deal with that with a file and in final cleanup, which you guys are not really interested in. So I won't bug you with that. So here we are again. I'm looking down to see if there's any gapping, and I'm really just seeing the beveling from the actual cleanup. So one more ride, and then we'll get going here. I'm going to try and set up so you guys can see the anvil here. Sorry, I've gotten some feedback that what I really need to do is get a new camera, so I'm working on it. So you can see my anvil right here. I've actually got a student in the shop today who wanted to experience Midweek with the Maker live. So that's my student anvil right over there. But we'll get our final bit done here. So knowing that we spent some time getting the orientation of the wood grain right, when we put our steel wedge in, again, it's wood first on the big one to spread everything sideways. And then finally the steel one, functionally it's to spread it front and back, but I put mine in on an angle. So it actually spreads in two directions. So if there's any other gapping that I'm really not happy with, I can use this wedge and drive it down in that way. The axe wedges are just a little bit larger, and they're really nice for making this all happen. So I use a little dirty hammer for this. A dirty hammer is a hammer that's not used for forging. And I want to close up on this side, so I'm going to orient it in such a fashion. I can't really tell if you guys can see it properly, but just angled to the edge. And with the axe wedges, you have to make sure that they're in back enough and angled far enough because they're a little wider than the others. Now I've got my axe handle sitting just right on the anvil, which is not that big of a problem because I'm going to do some extra grinding to clean that up and make it look pretty. Wedges at the very end, they kind of do their own thing. So this one happened to slide way off to the side and come out over there. It doesn't impact the use of the axe at all. I don't think it really impacts the aesthetic of the axe. But that it's kind of mushrooming or muffin top over all around there. So aside from that little glue dripping that I got on there, this is a finished axe. So I'm going to sharpen it, and then we'll see what I'm going to do with this. Actually, if you guys have been watching this video, you might know that I've also been cross-posting and trying to put this on YouTube, just so I can hit a wider audience. So I'm trying to get my YouTube viewership up so that I can live stream on there as well. So I'd like to see, hopefully, if you guys are watching this or have watched this or might watch this, please go over to YouTube Umbrella Forge and give me a like and a follow over there, and we'll go from there. And I'm coming up with some ideas as to what I might be able to do with this axe from the first project with Midweek with the Maker. Other than some piddly detail work, this build is done. So I'm going to get back to teaching my in-person student here. And if you guys are curious about anything, feel free to send me an email. Go to umbrellaforge.com. You can learn a lot more stuff about my business, how I approach things, or message and all of that through these regular social media channels. So Thanks for joining me once again for Midweek with a Maker. I promised it would be a shorter one. Here we are. Thank you very much.